music scene during the New Jack Swing era, and your style of music, instrumentals, in addition to sound effects, will speak to that. From your opinion, what do you think made the New Jack Swing era so impactful, although defunct now?
Well, you know, in New York at the time, we were experimenting so much with music. So, you had the music that I was making, which was called freestyle music, which was a derivative of dance music and hip hop. It spawned after, if you will, two songs. Those two songs that influenced it was "Let the Music Play" by Shannon and Planet Rock by Africa Bambaataa and the Soul Sonic Force. Mm-hmm. And from there, hip hop spawned, its own sound. So New Jack Swing really came out of hip hop as well. And that was Teddy Riley doing the go-go funk, mixing go-go funk with hip hop. Mm-hmm. And so I was lucky enough to witness this in New York at the time. I believe that it was its own, if you will, it was its own subgenre. Before anything else, New Jack Swing could have kept going. And it, as you still see the popularity by what Bruno did a couple of years ago with it, it's something that, could have stood the test of time and could have evolved and could have continued in a way, because it was a marriage of R&B and dance music. It was basically that. It was like an evolution of hip hop and pure, like funk dance music, if you will.
Yes. And ultimately, how did you get into music? Music's always been a part of my life. My mother had a very eclectic palette for music. So, when I was a kid, I would hear everything from, salsa, because I'm Latin, to, Nat King Cole, to Johnny Mathis, to Tom Jones, to Marvin Gaye, Nat King Cole, Carole King, rock and roll. My mom liked almost everything under the sun. So as a kid, I grew up listening to all that. Like, my mom would listen to like pop radio when we were in the car. She'd always put in New York, there was a station called WNBC. And they would play things, like, Hall and Oates and and the Eagles. And so my mom's palette for music and with that influence Do you
on
not
me,
hear me interviewing?
It made when I first heard hip hop that much more welcoming, because hip hop originally was a cross blending of all these different flavors. The original what hip hop was originally was kids from the Bronx taking anything that they could find and making music, from it. So if they found the Aerosmith record, they would take, the first, 8 bars of an Aerosmith record and loop it. If they found, a Mexican, Babe Ruth the Mexican, which was an old, Spanish, 80s rock record, that had Spanish guitar in it, they would loop that, and it would become a song that they would then take an MC and put that over. And I was fascinated by the fact that we could create music from the bare minimum. So for me, that was the driving force for me. I was like, well, I'm not the best singer in the world. I'm not trained. I'm not the best rapper in the world. But if my ingenuity, if my creativity could help me, show my talent and show my, my songwriting skills or my poetic skills, if you will, then this is for me.
you know, and it launched me into wanting to become an artist. And, it, you know, I had like a million little, you know, rap groups in the area when I was growing up, wanting to make it happen. TKA, which was my first group to record professionally, was the one that succeeded. But the group prior to that was, you know, a group that helped discover some talent that would, you know, like Lisa, the group that I was with, brought Lisa to Full Force, not discovered, but we made the introduction for Lisa to Full Force as kids.
Wow. So you said as kids, and you touched on like two things that I definitely wanted to cover, and one of those things was Lisa. So, yeah. Like, how did that transpire? Like, she's one of my favorites. You are too, but like, explain.
Well, I was a young kid, you know, starting out in high school, and I went to Julia Richmond, and Lisa was, you know, a very popular and talented young lady in the school, and I had this humongous crush, you know, on Lisa. She was. She was a no-nonsense girl, like, you know, she was tough, but, you know, but still pretty. And then she had, you know, this talent. She was part of the Talents Unlimited program in my high school, Julie Richmond. And while I was, you know, I used to frequent, I lived in the Upper East Side, but she lived in Midtown Manhattan in Hell's Kitchen. And two of the guys that I was in a group with, Andrew Welsh and Fareed Abdullah, happened to live in her building. And Fareed's sister, Yancy, was Lisa's best friend. So I had a girlfriend in Brooklyn at the time, and she worked with a guy named Mike Hughes, and Mike was looking for a new rap group. They were trying to look for a rap group that they can produce, him and two members of Full Force, Junior and Baby Jerry. And they brought us in to do some demos. And after we did a couple of demos with them, they introduced us to UTFO right before Roxanne came out. And they asked us if we knew any girls, in the, you know, that we could bring to them that sang. And I, you know, elbowed one of the guys and I said, "What about your sister's best friend, Lisa?" And, you know, and he brought her down. She had a record 2.5 years before I had my own record out. So, you know, like, you know, luckily that introduction transpired into her career. I don't take any credit for her talent, but, you know, we connected the dots by mentioning. We mentioned her and you know, Fareed brought her down.
Wow. So she was actually a vocalist at that time when you introduced her.
Yeah, she was singing in high school. She, you know, her and Toni Minaj, which is still her friend now, were two girls that I went to high school with. And they were always singing. You know, they always had that talent that you see them. When you see Lisa now, Toni's been with her since high school.
Wow.
And, you know, and they've always hung out with each other, and they've always sang, and they've always supported each other. You know, they're super talented.
Right. Wow. So, and that's crazy. You have seen music transform, transition. So you've seen every single thing and partaked in so much yourself as a songwriter.
I've been around, you know, I'm a student of old school hip hop. My favorite group growing up was a group called the Cold Crush Brothers. Mm-hmm. And they were probably my biggest inspiration. I credit Grandmaster Caz into turning me into a songwriter, you know, because I used to see what he used to do with, you know, his routines, and how he used to, and how he and the Cold Crush created, you know, what is hip hop today, and the influence that he had on many others. You know, it's not just the fact that he wrote Big Bad Hank's lyrics for, you know, for one of the greatest hip hop records of all time, Rapper's Delight. It's also the fact that, you know, he was ahead of his time. He and his group were ahead of their time, and they were doing things. They were singing R&B records and pop, you know, and rock pop records over hip hop beats prior to Mary J. Blige.
Wow. Prior
to it being on record. You know, they would take the lyrics to Rhinestone Cowboy by
Glenn Campbell and flip the lyrics around to talk about themselves as MCs, and take jingles from McDonald's, or a GE commercial or Pepsi commercial, and turn them into lyrics that would represent the hood, and so I was like, I love that ingenuity. I love that creativity, and it inspired me to want to write and to want to find a way. And so when my manager, when we got signed to Tommy Boy as a rap group, and they never heard us sing or rap, and halfway after being signed, they turned us into a dance pop group. And the way that my manager, Joey Gardner, told us that we were going to sing, he says, we're going to make you the Puerto Rican version of a group at the time called Planet Patrol. And they were actually the first people to sing over Planet Rock. They turned Planet Rock into a song called Play at Your Own Risk. As a matter of fact, the City Girls just sampled it for their current record. And they sampled their original beat. And when he told me that, I said, okay, cool. He goes, now what's going to happen is all the records that you're writing over these rap beats, we're going to speed them up to 125 BPMs. And that's how I got my start. That's what fueled my fire. I said, well, this is my own niche. This is not me copying my idols. This is me being able to create my own lane. And, that open door led, to a lot of creativity, in my mind. And it made me want to strive for more, if you will. And luckily I had someone like my manager, Joey Gardner, at the time, to fuel that creativity and to give me an outlet of which to create.
And you definitely blazed a trail, because that Heidi Ho was a hot track too, though different, very hot.
Yeah. Well, again, going back to hip hop and the things that, the early rappers that influenced me were doing, they were doing a lot of call and response, throw your hands in the air, wave them like you just don't care, somebody say ho, that call and response thing of being a party rapper, touched me. And when, it made me, honestly, it made me dig into what was, Black America, and and the artist that created Black America. And I discovered Cab Calloway through it. I used to see in the cartoons, I used to see Minnie the Moocher, and I loved when they would sing Heidi, 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 Hi, and I was like, wow, that is so cool. Like to just imagine the people, you saying something and they replying it back with you. So as I was creating my solo project, I remembered this record that influenced me as well. And I said, well, wouldn't it be cool if I rewrote the lyrics to Minnie the Moocher, a la Cold Crush, and talked about something that's true to me. At the time I was a jealous boyfriend who had a guy who was trying to take my girl away. So I wrote those lyrics about that, and I used the chorus, I used the chorus as a tribute to Cab himself. And luckily enough, he played my dad in the video. And, I'm lucky enough to know that I was one of the last videos, the last videos that he did prior to passing, a few years before his passing. It was me and Janet Jackson. So Janet had him in a video and I had him in a video. So, it's pretty thrilling and exciting to know that I worked with a man who inspired me and did something for, for minorities,
right?
American minorities, through movie and through records. He paved the way for many of us.
Yes, he did. He was just a trailblazer. So, and then speaking about that, and this is just my question about your opinion about after fighting through the era where people were hiding that there were Latina rappers to now where you have rappers and singers doing numbers on the charts. Do you think Latina rappers and musicians, do they represent music the best that it could be in this era?
You know, the thing is, for me, is inclusion is everything. You know, when I first got into the scene, there weren't many Latino MCs or rappers on the scene. I remember, I can specifically tell you that old school hip hop included very few Latinos. I could name them off the top of my head. MC Ruby D, one of the original Puerto Rican MCs, Whip a Whip, Charlie Chase from the Cold Crush Brothers, a guy named Johnny D from a group called Mastodon and the Deaf Committee. In fact, just so that you know, I know, because I know that name doesn't ring any bells, but I'll tell you exactly who Johnny D was. He was one of the guys who brought you, I'm gonna make you say, na 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 na. Master P remade it, but that song originally was done by a group from Manhattan, New York called Mastodon and the Deaf Committee, and Johnny D, who happens to be a first cousin of recording artist Mark Anthony, was a member of that group and one of the first Latino MCs on the hip hop scene. Those guys were the guys who paved the way, out of hundreds of, rappers that were out at that time. Those were the ones that were most successful or known worldwide, if you will, on the scene. And then a few years after that, there came, Fat Joe. And, and I think that he's a trailblazer because he was the first one to make an entire group of Hispanic MCs, with Terror Squad, and he brought one of the greatest MCs of all times to the forefront, which was, Christopher Rios, Big Pun. And to me, it's, though I wish there was more, I'm not going to lie. I'm happy with what we've had so far. I'm happy for the pit bulls of the world. I'm happy that there's Latino MCs in the reggaeton movement, because even though it's a reggaeton movement, it's an offshoot of hip hop. And it's without hip hop there would be no reggaeton.
Thanks.
And you have to give credit to people like Residente, who's a great MC from the group Calle 13, and you have to give credit to Daddy Yankee, and people like Nicky Jams and many others that are, and J Balvin, who are actually true MCs. Though they're rapping in another language, they still represent for what, for that offshoot of hip hop. I wish there was more in America that was actually rapping in English, but I'm happy for what we have, because, we've always found a way to be our niche. We're not just, the B-boys, the breakdancers. We're not just, the support system in the back. We can also be the talent, and little by little we've been included in the grand scheme of what hip hop and what dance music has become.
All right, now I love that. I love the way you and I guess because that comes with experience, that you are fully aware and present in music, present in the times. So, and then in doing so, your latest project, you have 5 songs entitled the same but totally different. Can you?
Well, what happened is that we have 5 different mixes of the song. Believe it or not, that's very much the dance music format. Hip hop, we release an extended mix and a regular radio mix, like a short radio edit. But in dance music, you have to give a totally different version of the song,
it'll be the same song, but we'll have a funk version, we'll have a house version, we'll have a hip hop version, we'll have a pop version, and we'll have a Latin pop version. And when creating the song, I initially only wanted one version, but but the record label and myself agreed that that since it leaned heavier, it sounded very urban, but since it leaned heavier in the dance aspect, that we'd have to give DJs some different mixes so that they can play, because every DJ now wants something that appeals to their personality. So we were just trying to we were trying to feed all the different souls out there.
So out of the 5, but then again, that just speaks to the level of creativity that you have to offer, with this. You have the same song, Hangover, 5 different times. So my favorite version is the radio edit and the extended, because those are my original versions. Those are the versions that have lived with me the longest since the creation of the song, and those are the ones I've been fine tuning for for a long time now. So those are really my babies. I'm not going to deny that I do like the funk version, but it had to grow on me. It's like, it's how could I define it? The best way that I could describe it is when your girlfriend comes home and she has a brand new haircut and she's still the same woman, she's still everything about her is what you love. But it's the brand new haircut and you have to get used to it. And it's not that you dislike it in any way. It's just a matter of visually you're used to one thing, but you have to get accustomed to this new look. And to me, that's how I feel about, different mixes on a song that I've spent like the past 6 months on. Wow. I want to make sure that, not that I want to make sure, I got to get used to the new look. So I had to get used to the new look on the song. So you live with your music, basically, like you let it marinate and make modifications. You don't just write something and put it out.
I'm old school that way. I was inspired by, the greats. I was inspired by Prince. I was inspired by Michael. I was inspired by, believe it or not, George Michael. And some of when I hear the stories about how they recorded songs and how they wouldn't release a song, it's fated, the fable of Prince's vault is true. As we see now, the man has passed away, and they continue to put out stuff every year since he's passed, right? Right. And the same thing with Pac. When Pac died, they kept releasing all his stuff, and Michael, the same thing. There's stuff that lives in these. They created so much work that they were able to choose and put away stuff for a rainy day. And when I record stuff, I'm not in a rush to catch a wave, and I'm not in a rush to get it out, because when I was a kid, I remember the story of Careless Whispers, one of the greatest songs of all time, by George Michael, right? It's a great, pop. At the time when it came out, it was considered R&B, a pop R&B ballad, ballad, if you will, right?
Right.
And this record was written way before George Michael was in the group Wham. If you guys know, Wham was an English boy band. It consisted of 2 guys, but it was a British boy band that George Michael was a member of when he was in his late teens, early 20s. And prior to the band being together, he already had the song Careless Whispers, and the song was created. And they didn't want to release it because they were going in a different direction. But when that song came out, that song catapulted, years later when the song came out, it catapulted them to stardom.
it made them mega stars. They had hits, but this is the song that solidified them as, solidified them as George Michael, a consummate performer and singer, right? And so I said, wow, if he didn't rush to put this song out, if he knew that he had this within his grasp all that time, and he waited to the right moment, then I shouldn't be in a rush to put out music. So, I have things that I've recorded that I've just been waiting for the right moment and, to put it out because, I believe everything has its day, and music really has no expiration date, They try to put an expiration date on us artists, but I believe that, a great song, it doesn't matter how old you are, with a great record would transcend age. A great record is about making people feel good. A great record is about entertaining people. Some of my heroes are in their early 70s, late 60s, Mick Jagger. I look at Mick Jagger, and Mick Jagger, I tell everyone, when Mick Jagger retires, that's going to be my retirement age. And right now, he's had hip replacements, heart problems, and he's still up there running the length of a football field, and dancing, for 2 hours straight. Maybe the skinniest man in the world, but he's still entertaining and thrilling. So I look at it as, I'm here for the long haul. I didn't come in here just to be a Johnny-come-lately. I came here to try to perform for as long as I can and be able to record for as long as I can. And, I'm not here to play, my favorite story is the story about the young bull and the old bull, and the young bull wants to run down, and the old bull says, no, let's walk down and do it all, do them all, and I'm a firm believer in taking my time and making it right.
Right. Okay, I love that. Okay, old school for sure, but it's good. It's dope. So you made a statement on Sway Universe that freestyle is the brother or sister to hip hop. Can you explain that?
Yes. As I mentioned before, we're offshoots of each other. So how could I put it? If the branch of the tree that created hip hop has to do with disco and rock and roll and funk and and James Brown's breakbeats, right? Mm-hmm. And from there, the melding of rock and roll and club music created the electro funk movement that came after Africa Bambaataa took Kraftwerk and made Planet Rock. Then if we're off the tree that created Planet Rock, then we are related. We are brother and sister. Because from that point on, we created something new that lived on its own.
Right.
Our beats are basically the same beats, the same drum patterns, sampled. We were sampling as hard as the rappers were and speeding up most of the samples. 225 BPMs. We sampled, break beats like Sing Sing. We sampled James Brown. We sampled Spoon and G's Love Rap. We sampled Apache. We sampled Dance to the Drummer's Beat. These songs that I just mentioned are the groundworks and the roots of what hip hop is. And if we use the same combination of beats to create a sound, we're definitely related. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Right now, most of the rap records that you hear that are trap music are 120 something BPMs themselves, but they seem a lot slower because they simplified. They simplified not having as much percussion and much more of an 808. The 808, boom, boom,
mm-hmm.
But if you can mix a freestyle record right alongside of it, and it fits right in. The keyboards that you hear on most of the trap records that are popular today are
really the keyboard sounds that we were using in freestyle, you know, in the late 80s, early 90s, you know, those sound effects that you hear in 808, you know, Kanye's 808 Heartbeat album. Those are freestyle chords. We're using freestyle chords. Everything that you hear, pardon me for saying it this way, I'm not trying to throw shots, but all the little rappers, meaning that they call themselves little, you know, they have little in their names. All those sounds that you hear them use are sounds that basically came from us. So we've always borrowed from each other. So it's, you know, it's big brother, little sister. You know, I consider freestyle to be hip hop's little sister. You know, it's the cute sister that you don't want your friends to know really about.
It's the fine little sister, okay?
Yeah. You know?
Right. I can dig it. So, what is your favorite project that you've ever made? And this is a two-part question. Do you have any credits that your fans may not know about?
Most of my friends, most of my fans would know me for having songs in movies. I've had Come Baby Come and in a series of movies from Mr. 3000 with Bernie Mac to the first Suicide Squad movie that came out a few years ago. Margot Robbie dances to Come Baby Come for 2 minutes. As a matter of fact, you could hear my voice throughout the whole thing for 2 minutes of the movie. They will know me because I had a song under the brand TKA on Lean On Me, the famous old school movie Lean On Me. When they're in the lunchroom, that's my song playing in the background. Those are credits. I've recorded with Evie Queen. I'm on Evie Queen's first album. I'm singing on a song called Dile Que Yo on Evie Queen's first album. I've been on our claim to fame, our start. We sang backgrounds in a rap group by the name of Rock Squad that was signed to Tommy Boy Records back in the 80s. Wow, what else have I done? I've written for a group called the Cover Girls. I've done so much.
So I said, I'm a pioneer.
It's funny because I was asked the other day to, in preparation for this single, like write down all my accolades. And I don't necessarily, maybe I should, but, I don't. I'm proud to say that I got a gold record. I'm proud to say that, I have a platinum album as well. But, I don't, as far as writing down everything that I've done, I don't do it for that. I do it because I love it. I really enjoy what I do. I'm a student of it. I like when I like when I discover something new. I like when I discover a rapper that, a rapper or singer that inspires me to go back into the studio and be better or find myself within that artist's music. I like it. Those are the things that I enjoy. I enjoy having longevity. This is my job. When I was a kid, this is all I ever wanted to do, and to still be doing it after all these years, to still be a student of it and to still love it. I've practically done everything. I've worked at Hot 97 for a period of time. I worked at, New York's WKTU as an on-air personality. I've worked with the likes of Angie Martinez, Funkmaster Flex, and Liz Jones, Boney Love, Ed Lover, Dr. Dre, Cypher Sounds, Wendy Williams. I've also worked with, some New York legends, New York radio legends out here that, some of you might not be familiar with, but I'm proud of the work that I put in, but I do it more because I love it, I really love what I do, and I'm still happy to do it.
Oh,